everyone. My name is Ankit and you're watching the Indian Express analysis which appears on StudyIQ IS English channel. Now in this session we provide you with the detailed analysis of that day's newspaper articles which are important from exams perspective. We provide you with the relevant MCQs, we provide you with related PYQs and also mains answer writing questions so that to hone your skills according to the exam needs. Now today is 17th of January and we will be dealing with 7 important articles that have spread across the Indian Express. First article deals with the important milestone that was achieved by the India's Space Research Organization, that it attempted and successfully undertook the process of space docking. Now space docking in very simple words is when two different space objects, for example could be satellites, they are docked or connected deep inside the space territory. So this is the first article and we'll be dealing in detail about that. Second is the issue related to Places of Worship Act 1991, which you can understand has been in news for past few months, and the Indian National Congress has filed to be a party in the dispute which is there in the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India is considering the constitutional validity of this Places of Worship Act among many challenges filed by various parties in India. Now this article is very important as far as your polity syllabus is concerned, because this matter deals with fundamental rights, this matter deals with the process of secularism as well as freedom of speech and expression. So these kind of articles or one aspect of such articles could be possibly asked in this year's prelim. So please pay close attention to that particular discussion. The third article is highlighting the drop in enrollment of Masters of Technology courses, because we have seen ideally it is highlighted that India needs high skilled workforce, but the industry demand for MTech graduates or postgraduates for that matter is been reducing, and that is why people are enrolling themselves less in such courses. So we'll try to understand the reasons why first of all such drop in enrollment has happened. Also we'll be dealing with Lokpal, because Lokpal Day was observed recently and Chief Justice of India, he went and addressed and he gave certain suggestions to the Lokpal. So we'll try to understand first of all what suggestions did the Honorable Chief Justice of India gave, and what is the body called Lokpal, what are its powers, responsibilities, composition, etc. Also an article appeared on the explain section, that is Fast Track Immigration Trusted Traveller Program, as this program was brought by Ministry of Home Affairs to streamline and ease the process of immigration into the country. That is, people coming in and people going out of country, they will be having a very seamless process whenever they had to fulfill their immigration requirements. So we'll try to understand what is this process or website is all about. Also we'll be dealing with 150 years of IMD, because India's meteorological department has completed 150 years in existence and it has made a lot of changes in recent past, and because of these changes the ability of IMD to predict and analyze any weather changes has improved manifold, and we'll try to understand what are the changes made and how further changes is expected to take up in the next 25 years or so. The last article of the day is related to NEET's decision that the government has held, that this year even the NEET exam will be held not over the online mode but on the pen and paper mode. So we'll try to understand this article in context of the recommendations passed by the K. Radhakrishnan panel on how you could reform the India's entrance exams, and how this reform which was suggested goes against the very idea where the NEET currently is now being held in the this year's exam in pen and paper format. So this is all we'll discuss in today's article. Now the notes of this particular session will be available on my Telegram channel as usual, called ATS Live. You can search the words ATS Live on the search bar over the Telegram app, or you can also scan this QR code which will take you directly to my app. Now before moving with our today's article, let us first of all deal with the yesterday's question that I gave you with reference to growing plants in space. Consider the following statements. Plants grown in microgravity, they exhibit irregular root growth patterns due to absence of gravitational cues. Now, ideally, you understand to grow roots for any plant for that matter, you require gravity, because as the gravity pulls down the root takes hold of the land. However, such gravity-like conditions are not absent or are very less in the space, and that is why the plants, they cannot grow properly in the microgravity conditions because of absence of gravity forces. So, first statement here is straightforward and quite correct. Second is space grown plants rely entirely on artificial light for photosynthesis. You are correct. As you have seen from yesterday's discussion, even ISRO, it made provisions for an LED lighting in the at controlled environment, so that these lightings mimic the part of sunlight which is usual or which is very much necessary for growth of plants and undertaking of photosynthesis. So these LED lights act as a source of lighting for the plant, which means they are source of artificial lighting. Hence, second statement also correct. The study of plants in space is limited to ensuring food supply for astronauts and has no broader scientific applications. Now just apply some kind of critical thinking. You know that first of all we need to grow plants in space so that to enable the astronauts to have food in the space itself. But there are other scientific applications also. For example, in these very drastic and resource less conditions like space, if you're able to grow the crops, don't you think such ideas and the learnings from that project can be utilized whenever the conditions or the inputs in the earth itself is less? For example, you require very less amount of water to grow plants in space, and hence the efficiency of use of water should be very high. So similarly, those kind of applications can be applied in drought prone areas where you require less amount of water, and from that even you are able to cultivate the crops. Understood? So this is how learnings from any kind of a space program can be even used in earth-like conditions to manage the growth of crops. Understood? So that is why third statement, as it says, it has no broader scientific application, is incorrect. Understood? Now first and second are correct. We have to identify correct question. Therefore, option A is the right answer to our yesterday's question. Now, good morning, Baga Spinks. Good morning, Kalpana. No, sorry, Kalpana, answer was not B. Baga Spinks, you're right. Option is A. Now, moving to the main question that I will be taking up before the end of the session today, it states that K. Radhakrishnan panel has recommended reforms in the structure and conduct of entrance examination in India to issue the to address the issue of inequality, transparency and efficiency. And we have to highlight the recommendations made by panel and discuss their potential impact on conduction of entrance exam. Now, what is important in this question, that you have to address the recommendations of the panel and their impact, and you have to do this in 150 words. So that makes this kind of an answer writing a challenging effort, because you have to condense your knowledge, which is quite high, and you have to condense them in just 150 words. So this is how you are able to write the answers in an exam like conditions. Now I'll tell you today how to write this answer, so please stay tuned. Now, having said that, we also uploaded a video for the monthly current affairs from the economy section last month. Now this video is available on the videos section of our YouTube channel, so please take a look at this video and understand how it is important to revise important articles from last year's and last month's discussion. Understood? So this is how you have to revise that. In addition to following this kind of videos on a daily basis, you also have to make sure to revise your learning for the previous month, and you can do so exactly through the monthly current affairs videos. Understood? Now let us start our today's discussion with yesterday's the milestone event that happened yesterday. As you can see from the two screenshots that I've put up, which appeared on page 1st and page 14 of the Indian Express newspaper, they have said that ISRO has achieved a milestone, that it has been able to dock 2 satellites which it had sent into space. Now such kind of an event is quite a big achievement for India Space Research Organization, and hence it is also important from GS paper 3 syllabus, because the syllabus includes topics of science and technology. And also there is a topic in the GS paper 3 syllabus, it highlights awareness related to space. So you have to have awareness related to space, not just with matters of ISRO, but also with respect to NASA and other important space organizations. Understood? Now let us try to first of all understand the context of today's discussion. The ISRO, as I've already told you, has successfully demonstrated the process of space docking, which means joining of 2 fast moving satellites in the space itself. Now this successful docking by ISRO makes India only the 4th country in the world to have such kind of a capability. Earlier, countries like US, Soviet Russia and China have been able to dock their spacecrafts. Now 4th comes India. So this is a significant milestone. Now first of all, let us first of all try to understand under which mission this docking experiment took place. Now this mission was also called as Space DEX, called Space Docking Experiment, and this was sent over the PSLV C60 mission, on which the CROPS mission was also sent. So this is the significant mission that sent SpaceX, also the CROPS mission. Now this mission, it included two small spacecraft called Chaser and Target, and they were launched on board the space launch vehicle called PSLV. Now these spacecrafts, they were launched on a single rocket, but you have to understand these were two individual spacecraft and they were released into the outer space at different times. So theoretically, the orbits of these two spacecrafts were different, and to achieve the process of docking, first of all, what ISRO needed to do is that it needed to undertake rendezvous. That is, it had to first of all align the different orbits of these spacecrafts into one orbit, and then the process of bringing them closer began, which ultimately culminated into the process of docking, which means two individual satellites, first of all, they were brought into same orbits, and relatively they were attached into a one single composite satellite. After this docking incidents take place, now the undocking or the unlocking of these two spacecrafts will also happen, demonstrating the complete ability of ISROs to dock and undock the spacecrafts. Now, the objective of this kind of a mission was actually twofold. First of all, ISRO wanted to demonstrate that it had the capability of docking of two spacecrafts, and after docking takes place, it also wants to demonstrate the process of power transferring from one satellite to another. So, it is very essential so that these satellites, in case it goes out of power, it could be charged by another satellite. So, such kind of capabilities are very essential. So, this is what the SpaceX mission was all about. Now, first of all, you have to understand the process of space docking. In this process, two fast-moving spacecraft, they are relatively brought closer to each other. As we have seen in the past week, ISRO was giving us updates as how these satellites were earlier 2 kilometers apart, then it was brought 1 kilometer apart, then 500 meter, and slowly by slowly, it was brought closer to each other, ultimately leading to the process of docking. So this is how they are finally joined together slowly by slowly. Now the capability is also necessary, first of all, for any space organization so that it can carry higher payloads in the space. Now, for example, these space stations and bigger satellites, they weigh multiple tons or even tens or hundreds of tons. So you cannot send all these payloads just once into the space. So what you have to do is you have to send these space stations in form of components, and once you have you have delivered all the components in the outer space, you should have the capability to merge or dock these components individually. And this is how such kind of a mission is very important for ISRO, as it is planning to bring its own space station, and it is also trying to undertake interplanetary missions, all of which needs higher payloads. And so one of the reasons is how the ISRO wanted to demonstrate the ability to dock its spacecraft. Now, such kind of a importance, it is important for setting up of a space station or even carrying crews and supplies to it, because as we have seen in cases of International Space Station, there is this one International Space Station which was again made by smaller components which were docked into space, and the supplies undertaken to the ISS currently are done through spacecrafts. As spacecrafts reach the ISS, they undertake the process of docking, which enables flow of goods, services, and also the crewed astronauts from the spacecraft into space station, and after they are done, if they want to return back, the process of undocking happens. So this is what essentially ISRO also wants to do, and this is why it has demonstrated the capability of docking, and now it will start the process of undocking. Now, first of all, you have to understand, is India was not the first country. Earlier, 3 countries have taken such similar missions. United States began it in 1966 with Gemini 8, as it became the first spacecraft ever to dock with another spacecraft, which was a target vehicle called Agena. Now, this Gemini 8 mission was quite significant because it was a crewed scientific mission which was commanded by none other than Neil Armstrong. Now, if you can remember, Neil Armstrong was the first person to set human foot on the moon. Also, this process of docking was achieved by Russia in 1967 as it demonstrated the first uncrewed automated docking of its Cosmos 186 and 188 spacecraft in the outer space. Now, US's attempt was on a crewed mission. However, Russia's attempt was on an uncrewed mission. Now, China back in 2011 demonstrated first of all that it took the opportunity of docking a spacecraft on an uncrewed mission in Tiangong 1 space laboratory, and the next year, that is 2012, a manned crewed mission attached itself to the same Tiangong 1 space laboratory. So earlier, before India, actually United States, Russia and China had the similar ability. Now India is the fourth country in this regard. Now, first of all, you have to understand why is India undertaking such a capability, or why is India wants to develop its own space docking capabilities. And as I told you already, India wants to construct its own space station termed as Bharatiya Antariksh Station. And you have to understand such space station could have the weight of many tons, and currently India only has the capability of send about 8 tons to the lower Earth orbit. However, it is developing many new spacecraft, but even such spacecraft will not be able to take the entire space station at one go. So, first of all, ISRO wants to send smaller modules of these space stations into space and ultimately achieve the construction of a complete space station by the process of docking by the year 2035, I guess, right? Now, also ISRO wants to undertake another mission to the moon termed as Chandrayaan-4. Now, this Chandrayaan-4 will be quite different from Chandrayaan-3 because Chandrayaan-4 wants to bring back the lunar samples back to Earth. So, this kind of a mission will consist of 5 different modules. First 4 modules will be sent on the first mission, and these first 4 modules will consist of a transfer module which will take the spacecraft from Earth's orbit to the orbit of moon. And after the spacecraft reaches the orbit of moon, it will then land onto the surface, and after picking up the samples from the moon, it will again take off to achieve or to reach the Earth. Now, once it reaches the outer atmosphere of moon, it will attach to a transfer module again, which will bring it back to the Earth's outer atmosphere, and from Earth's outer atmosphere, a new module will be launched called as a re-entry module, which will have the capability to re-enter the Earth, and after docking, this re-entry module will bring back the lunar samples back to Earth. So, such missions such as Chandrayaan-4 and Bharatiya Antariksh Station warrants ISRO to have the capability of undertaking space docking systems. Understood? So, this was all for today's discussion on this article. Let us try to solve the question first of all. Consider the following statement regarding the space docking experiment. The primary objective of space docking is to demonstrate electric power transfer between docked spacecraft. Now, what I told you about the primary objective is to undertake the process of docking itself, whereas transfer of power is the secondary objective, not the primary. So, first in itself is incorrect. Now, ISRO's SpaceX is world's first space docking mission. Is it right? The answer is again no. It is world's fourth such mission. As I've already told you, US, Russia and China have already undertaken such missions. Now, space docking, it solely relies on manual operations conducted by astronauts overboard. Again incorrect. As I've already told you, India undertook this automated version of docking of spacecrafts. Similarly, even US, Russia and China in the past have undertaken such automated missions. So, you need not have astronauts in space to undertake such capabilities of space docking. So, all of these 3 are incorrect, and you have to identify how many of the statements given above is or are correct. None is correct. Option D therefore is the right answer to our first practice question. Moving to the second question, second article. This article states that the Indian National Congress, it has agreed to join the plea in the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court is considering whether this Places of Worship Act, which was passed in the year 1991, is constitutional or not, or is it valid from a legal point of view or not. And this article appeared on the page 6 of the Indian Express, and it is important from polity syllabus, as this topic deals with the problem of fundamental rights. It deals with problem of secularism, both of which you can understand are the part of basic structure of the Indian Constitution. So that is why such kind of an article and the relevant details from those articles, they become important from our prelims as well as mains perspective. So let us try to understand that. First of all, what does this Place of Worship Act 1991 entails? Now, this act first of all was brought at the time when India was witnessing a severe political and social crisis. This was the time when Ayodhya movement was in very much fruition, and this act primarily was passed by a Congress-led government so as to prohibit the conversion of any place of worship, because this act, it's prohibited or it provided for maintenance of the religious character of a place as it existed back in August the 15th, 1947, and this was the day when India got its independence. Now let me tell you how this religious character is maintained and the change of religious character is prohibited. Suppose on August the 15th, 1947, there was this Gurudwara. Now you know Gurudwara is a place of worship belonging to people from Sikh religion, right? So suppose this Gurudwara existed as on 15th of August 1947. So any attempt to change the religious character of this Gurudwara, that is it belongs to Sikh religion, cannot be made into a mosque or it cannot be converted into a temple which belongs to Hindu religion. So this conversion of Gurudwara into a mosque or a temple or any other religious place is prohibited because the mosque existed before 15th of August 1947. So this is how this act tries to maintain the religious character of any religion. For example, any mosque which existed before 15th of August 1947, so you cannot change that mosque into making it a Gurudwara or a temple after the India got independence. So this act prohibits such change of religious character of a place. Now there are certain places which have been kept out of the purview of this act. First of all was the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid dispute, because it was under the consideration of Supreme Court back then, so it was left out from the provisions of this act. And also ancient monuments and archaeological sites which are governed as per the provisions of Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of the year 1958, these sites are also excluded from this act. So it consists of all places, all religious places in India except these two type of places. Understood? Now, there are many people who have challenged the validity of this law in the Supreme Court of India, and Supreme Court of India is considering this matter, and this matter has been pending since the year 2020. And the challenges against this act has been mainly made under two grounds. First of all, that people said that this act, when it was brought into fruition back in 1991, it took away the power of judicial review. As the courts, it cannot decide whether the existing claims were there. It did away with all the existing claims, and it also prohibited any fresh claims into dispute of any religious character of a site. Further, people also said that the date which was fixed, that is the cutoff date of August 15, 1947, was arbitrary in nature, because there were many sites, religious sites in India, which were converted into another religious site back in the time when Mughals or even Delhi Sultanate was in rule. So they highlighted that fixing a date of India's independence on a cultural matter is not correct and it is arbitrary. So these are the two key issues based on which the validity of the Places of Worship Act has been challenged. Now, there were many disputes, as we have seen, particularly in the city of Banaras or even in Sambal recently, that people have filed for fresh suits in order to undertake a survey of a particular disputed religious site. Now, these kind of suits, although are in the courts, but it also leads to severe social tensions in the region, which we saw even led to death of people in Sambal district in UP. So these kind of social disturbances wanted to be controlled, and Supreme Court in that regard, back in December, it passed a rule that it said that it barred civil courts in the country, especially the district courts, from registering any suit which will challenge the ownership and title of a particular religious place. And also we have seen, like in Sambal and Banaras, the civil courts, they have ordered the conduction of survey, which has furthered the social tension. So these surveys and the conduction of these surveys of the disputed religious sites, these were also prohibited by the Supreme Court of India. And this order, which was brought by Supreme Court, is applicable to pending civil suits and also any future suit which is filed on the same matter. Now, the district court's order, although they can be challenged in the court of law if people feel that they have violated the tenets of secularism or the tenet of rule of law, which is a part of basic structure of the constitution. Understood? Now, Baga Spinks, how many pages needed for 250 words? In a normal handwriting, for 250 words, you need 2.5 pages. And for 150 words, you need 1.5 pages. So, theoretically, you should be able to write about 100 words in a page. Now, good morning, Bulbul. Yes, Bhaga Springs, you're right. Oxygen enrichment, mental health, scientific advancement are the purpose of, yeah. So now let us try to solve second practice question. Consider the following statements regarding Places of Worship Act, Special Provisions Act 1991. This act prohibits the conversion of religious character of any place of worship as it existed before the passage of the act. Now, the cutoff date of this act, which was passed in 1991, is not 1991, rather it is 15th of August 1947. So it prohibits change of religious character as it existed not in 1991 but back in 1947, particularly August 15th. So therefore first statement is incorrect. Now the provision, it does not apply on ancient and historical monuments covered under the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Site Remains Act 1958. As I have told you already, second statement is correct, because in addition to Babri Masjid and Ayodhya dispute, the monuments which are covered under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958 have been exempted from the purview of this act. So only second is correct, first was incorrect, and we have to identify what correct statement. Therefore option B here is the right answer. Moving to the third article, this appeared in the very front page of the Indian Express newspaper, and as you can see, this article highlights that nearly 2 out of 3 seats, that is about 66% of total MTech seats in India, have remained vacant. Now this article also highlights the changes in trend, so we'll try to understand this article. Now the data which is presented in this article has been sourced from All India Council for Technical Education, which is a regulatory authority for higher ed technical education in India. And this data shows that nearly 2 out of 3 MTech seats, that is about 66% of India's MTech seats, they are lying currently waiting. And this pattern, it has shown that the total postgraduate seats, although they have shrunk, but still the amount of vacancies are about 1/3. That is 66% of seats in general have been remaining vacant in India's postgraduate engineering program, that is the MTech program. Now let us try to understand this scale of the problem. Now from the graph that you can see here, back in 2017-18, when there were about 1,85,000 seats for MTech, still only 68,677 were filled, which means about 66% of seats or 2/3 of seats lied vacant. However, when you compare the similar numbers in 2022 and 23 and 2023 and 24, you have seen as against 1.85 lakh seats in MTech, the seats have reduced to 1.30 and 1.24 lakhs. However, judging by the fact that although the number of seats have reduced, so has the amount of vacancies reduced? The answer is no. Still about 63% here and 64% here of seats are remaining vacant. So this highlights that despite reduction in number of seats in postgraduate or MTech, the number of vacancies have not changed. And the last 2 academic years, they have seen the lowest amount of MTech enrollment number, which you can see it was 44,303 in 2022 and 23, and it only increased few hundreds by 45,047 seats. So that is why this is a huge issue, that although India is saying that we need skilled workforce, that is people having higher capabilities and bigger degrees, however such demand is not reflected in the market, as students still are not getting themselves enrolled in the such advanced courses like MTech. Now let us try to understand the change in BTech scenario. The demand of BTech last decade actually fell down. However, this demand is now seeing an uptick. So which we can see that the number of BTech seats, which were about 14.7 lakh back in 2017 and 18, in 2023 it is about 13.48 lakh. But when it comes to the number of vacancies, it was about 50% of seats were vacant here. However, this has reduced to only about 17% of seats vacant. So in terms of vacancies and the demand for BTech seats, you have seen the demand has increased, and thereby the amount of vacancies has dropped dramatically from 50% back in 2017 and 18 to about 17% in the year 2023 and 24. Understood? So this highlights the demand for MTech is reducing, whereas the demand for BTech is increasing. So let us try to first of all understand why such a pattern is emerging as far as India is concerned. Now you have to understand there are many reasons. First is that the amount of salary offered to a person who has taken an undergraduate degree or BTech is very similar to that of person who has a MTech degree. That is why when there is no difference in so much salary, that is why would any person pursue MTech when he or she can get the same amount of salary even after BTech. So they will save their 2 years, they will sell their course money and get the same amount of salary. Also, there is a what you can call a disconnect between the curricular aspects of the MTech courses and also what is required in Indian industry today. Now the content and curriculum of the MTech industries, they have not been updated or upgraded in relation to what is happening in the industry, and most of these post graduation courses, they are oriented at a research based knowledge or they provide a research based aspect. But in India today, any industry, they are looking for candidates who have an applicative mind, or rather they need to have an application based knowledge, which is currently not provided in the postgraduate courses. Earlier, there was also the stipulation that if a person wanted to do PhD, he or she should have a MTech degree. However, this kind of a reputation or restrictions were removed, and hence the demand for MTech, it has also fallen down. So these three are the reasons. First of all, not a difference in salary, a disconnect between what is being taught in PGs and what has been required in the Indian industry, and the requirement of MTech before doing your PhD was done away with, and these three are the reasons why the demand for MTech has reduced. Now moving to the next article, this article highlights that the Chief Justice of India, he was speaking at the event of the Lokpal day, and he highlighted that merely establishment of Lokpal is not enough. You have to address the problem of corruption at its root by increasing the coordination with central agencies like CBI as well as Central Vigilance Commission, which in some cases can be under the control of Lokpal. Now, he spoke at an event to commemorate the Lokpal Day. So, that is why such news are important as far as our exams are concerned. Now, as I was saying, let us try to understand what kind of a body is Lokpal. Lokpal, first of all, is a statutory body which was established again by a law which was passed by Parliament called Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act 2023. Now, you have to remember this act was passed after much debate in India as a Jan Lokpal movement emerged, which was headed by then very famous social activist Mr. Anna Hazare, and he demanded that such a act should be passed by the government, and accordingly to the wishes of the protesters, the government agreed and it gave the Lokpal a statutory status by requisiting or by enacting the requisite act. Now, this Lokpal, it inquires and investigates into the allegation of corruptions which can be made on a certain kind of public functionaries. So, we'll understand what kind of functionaries come under the ambit of Lokpal and what kind of powers do Lokpal have over such anti-corruption activities. Now, first of all, you have to understand the organizational structure of Lokpal. It consists of a chairperson and 8 members. The chairperson should be a former Chief Justice of India or a former judge of Supreme Court, or also can be an eminent jurist who has an impeccable integrity and outstanding ability. Now, it also consists of maximum of 8 members, out of which 50% are categorized as a judicial member. Now, the judicial member of Lokpal, they should be either a former judge of the Supreme Court or a former Chief Justice of an High Court. Now, among these 8 members, the government also should have to ensure that minimum of 50% of these members are from the marginalized section of the society, that is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBCs, minorities and women. So, from this representation, you understand the participation or the representation of people in the Lokpal are quite diverse and inclusive, and it includes judicial members, it includes eminent personalities, and it may also include people belonging from the marginalized community. Further, how are the members, or what is the process of appointment of the members? Now, the President of India appoints the chairperson and the members of Lokpal based on the recommendation by the selection committee. Now, this selection committee, it consists of many people, particularly the chairperson of this committee is Prime Minister of India. I'm sorry, and the members, they include Speaker of Lok Sabha, Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India, and one eminent jurist who will be nominated by the President on the recommendation of the members of selection committee. So there are 5 members headed by CJI, and it includes headed by Prime Minister of India. It includes Speaker of Lok Sabha, Leader of Opposition, Chief Justice of India, and one eminent jurist. And the tenure of these members, that they remain in office if for the period of 5 years, or if they achieve the age of 70 years, whichever of this is earlier, the members are remaining for that amount of term. Now let us understand what is the jurisdiction of Lokpal, that what kind of people can be investigated by Lokpal. It includes if the matters of corruption is done by a public representative such as Prime Minister of India, Minister of the Union Government, Member of the Parliament, as well as officials of the Union Government, be it A, B, C or D groups. Also, it includes chairperson, members, office members and directors of any company which has been established by an act of Parliament, or they are partly or fully funded by the union or state government. So these kind of functionaries from this organization are included under the ambit of jurisdiction of Lokpal. Also, it covers any society, trust, body or an NGO that receives foreign contribution over 10 lakhs. So in addition to government functionaries like politicians, bureaucrats, it includes members or the board of directors of PSU or a similar company which receives funded from the union or state government, and it also includes within its ambit certain civil society organizations who are receiving foreign funding over the value of 10 lakh rupees. Understood? Now let us try to quickly summarize the powers with Lokpal. It has a power of superintendence to give directions to the CBI and also to Central Vigilance Commission over the matters it is investigating. It also has an inquiry wing which is vested with the powers of Supreme Civil Court, that it can demand a presence and take the recordings and the opinions of certain legal matters. It has the power to confiscate the asset, proceeds and received which may have been immersed out of an act of corruption. It has the power to recommend transfer or even suspension of public servants who are connected with the allegation of corruption, and it can also give directions to Central Vigilance Commission and CBI by preventing destruction of records. Also, if any officer of the CBI or CVC, if they are involved in undertaking any cases of investigation which has been given by Lokpal, their transfer cannot be done without the written permission of Lokpal. Understood? So this is the power of Lokpal is all about. Now let us try to solve our practice question. Consider the following statements regarding the Lokpal. It is a statutory body established under the Lokpal Lokayuktas Act 2013. A correct statement: the jurisdiction of Lokpal excludes the Prime Minister. Now this is a very drastic statement. You have to understand it is incorrect. Although Prime Minister is a very important functionary, but still India is a democratic country. So there are certain safeguards that you need to have a recording, that all the members first of all should have to agree before investigating the Prime Minister. However, the jurisdiction of Lokpal, it includes and not excludes the Prime Minister. Understood? So second statement is incorrect. Now the Lokpal does not have the jurisdiction over officials below the rank of A and B grade officers. Now as I told you, the jurisdiction of Lokpal includes A, B, C and D grade officers. So all the kind of officers of the union government are under the ambit of Lokpal. Therefore third statement is correct. Now which of the statements given above is or are incorrect, and we have to identify what incorrect statement. So second and third are incorrect. Therefore B option here is the right answer. Now, as I tell you daily, you can access this course even on our website using this link, and the benefit of accessing this video not on YouTube but on website are many, that you can first of all get the notes there itself. You don't have to go to the Telegram channel every day. You also have an option to download this video in case you have a patchy internet connection at your home, or in case even if you are traveling, you can watch these videos even without an internet connection. Also, you can practice your learning through a interactive MCQs, and this will provide you a complete and more exhaustive learning process. Further, you can solve your doubts with the help of an expert. So these are kind of the benefits which are available on the course, which is just available at a sum total of what? 1 rupee. Now, let us move to the next article of the day. This appeared again in the explain section, and it highlights that a new process has been brought to fasten and smoothen the process of immigration process in India. Now, you have to understand the context of this article. Now, yesterday, the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, he inaugurated the Fast Track Immigration Trusted Traveller Program, and the portal of this program at which will be available at the airports of Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Kochi and Ahmedabad. Earlier or 7 months back, it was started from the Indira Gandhi International Airport of Delhi, and now it has been made applicable to the other Indian airports as well. So, what is this scheme or what is this portal? Let us try to understand. Now, this FTI TTP or the traveler program, it intends to facilitate the international mobility by making it faster, more smooth and also more secure for immigration clearances. Now, earlier it will be available only, it is only available at a handful of airports right now, but ultimately it will be available at 21 major airports in the country. Now, initial phases, this kind of a program is available only for Indian nationals as well as people having overseas citizen of India registration. However, at a later phase, it will be available to all the foreign travelers in the country, be it Indian citizens or be it citizens from any other country. Now, the Bureau of Immigration, which comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs, is the nodal authority for implementation of this scheme, and let us try to understand this, how this eases the process of representation or immigration in India. Now, to enroll this program, any applicant, for example, if you and I are traveling abroad, we have to register our details on the portal of the Ministry of Home Affairs, and we can register by providing the requisite details and uploading the required documents. Now, after this, after we have uploaded the document, a necessary verification process is undertaken, and if we are labeled as a safe passenger, we will be provided, or our names will be then listed in the white list of trusted traveler. So, which mean that the government trusts our credentials, and he or she thinks that we are not some kind of a terrorist or antisocial elements. So, once our name is there on the whitelist of trusted travelers, it will make things much more easier for us. Now, once we are traveling outside, our biometrics will be captured through e-gates or either through foreigner registration office or even at the airport on the first instance we are traveling. And the details which have been registered and captured by the ministry will be available for a period until our passport expires or 5 years, whichever is earlier. Now, this process, as soon as the registered person who has been listed in the whitelist reaches the airport, they scan their biometric, boarding pass and passport. It will authenticate the biometrics and the gate of immigration will automatically open, which means that the immigration clearances will be given just without a human interference, just by the process of confirming our document and giving our biometrics. So, this is how it aims to ease the process, that rather than standing in a queue and appearing in front of a human, you rather only have to use your biometrics and passport, and it will allow automatic and faster clearances at the airport. Understood? Now, moving to another article. This article also appeared in the explain section, and it states that 150 years has been completed since the establishment of Indian Meteorological Department. Now, this was established in 1875 under the British rule, and in this article, we'll try to understand how the India's weather agency has improved in the recent past and what are the plans of this agency for its future days. Now, before understanding the IMD, let us try to know a very basic details about it. As I told you already, it was established in 1875 and it is the National Meteorological Service, which means it is the principal government authority on all matters relating to meteorology. Now, the headquarters of this department is located in Delhi and it is supported by 6 regional offices which are located in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Nagpur, Guwahati and Chennai. Also, the nodal ministry under which this department comes is the Ministry of Earth Sciences of the Government of India. So, you have to remember these key details, as sometimes these details, although quite trivial in nature, they have been asked in prelims. Now, moving also to another thing, what is the mandate of Indian Meteorological Department? Now, first of all, this department is responsible for taking the observation of changes in weather, both current, and it based on this data, it provides us what the forecast of weather will be there in the coming future. And in case there is expectation of certain threatening weather events, it also warns the relevant authorities. Further, it provides meteorological statistics, which you can understand is important. For example, in agricultural processes, you need to know what have been the rainfall pattern in that particular area, and what kind of a days you can expect rainfall and what kind of a days will be dry. And using that statistics, any kind of an agricultural or sports or even transport related activity can be managed quite efficiently. Also, it conducts and promotes research in meteorology. So this is an important organization as far as India's weather related changes is concerned. Now, let us try to understand what has been the improvements taken by the Indian Meteorological Department, which has made it much better and more efficient. Now, first of all, the overall forest accuracy has been improved by 40% over the last decade. And how this accuracy has improved, you have to understand that the IMD, it has actually strengthened the meteorological observation network across land, sea and space, that it has installed more district monitoring centers, it has installed more automatic weather monitoring places, and it has also installed more Doppler weather radar systems, which are essential for understanding the changes in weather. Also, it has now the services of two geostationary satellites, that is INSAT 3DR and 3DS. Earlier it had only one, and this allows the IMD to monitor the changes in weather around the clock, that is 24/7. Further, the model or weather model resolution of IMD, it has improved. Earlier it had the capability only to assess the 25 square kilometer area, but now it has ability to assess a smaller piece of land accurately, that is 12 kilometer square. Now, if this numbers reduces, you understand the accuracy or the precision of the weather monitoring and its analysis given by any weather department will be better. So theoretically, from 25 it has become less to 12, it is much better. And if this number reduces further, you can understand the ability of IMD to predict the changes in weather will be much more accurate and precise based on a certain minor locations. Now, the forest using this better infrastructural services and ability, the IMD has been able to accurately forecast the changes in weather. For example, the prediction of heat waves has now become 95% accurate within a period of 2 days. Earlier, it was just about 50% accurate. Now, as far as thunderstorms is concerned, the detection by IMD is now 86% accurate for up to 3 days. Earlier, it was just 50%. Now, sorry, the accurate or the forecast of thunderstorms, they are based not on 3 days but on hourly basis. Further, the chances of IMD to detect heavy rainfall instances in up to 3 days, it has now gone up to 78%, whereas the accuracy to determine cyclone tracking and its prediction of landfall has now improved about 35 to 45% over the decade. Now, this kind of an improvement in understanding the changes in weather and predicting the amount or magnitude of those weather changes has allowed the IMD to prevent the cause of death, which we have seen in the past. Cyclones, particularly in states of Odisha, have led to death of many people. So, it is important not just from a weather point of view, but also from a social economic point of view to reduce the amount of disaster related risk and also to reduce the amount of mortality that may happen due to disasters. So, this has been the change. Now, the next aim of the IMD has been to move towards a error-free forecasting, which means it has to become 100% accurate so as to make no error in as far as its forecasting is concerned. Now, for that, IMD has published a vision document 2047, and in that document it states that IMD will ensure that at block level, all the forecasts which it makes relating to severe weather related phenomena up to 3 days will have a zero error by 2047. By means, it will have or it will be 100% accurate. Now, it will also ensure that the loss of human lives relating to severe weather events are also brought to zero, and it further wants to improve the resolution of its weather models. Currently, as I told you, it was reduced from 25 to 12. Now, it wants to reduce it further to about 5 to 6 kilometers, which will make or which will allow the IMD to possibly forecast hyper localized changes in weather events. As I can tell you, currently the ability of IMD to gauge the changes have been from 12 kilometers length and 12 kilometers breadth, which means the area is about 144 square kilometers. However, once it reduces this resolution to about 5 to 6 kilometers, so it will just be 25 to 36 square kilometers of area. So therefore, the ability of IMD to analyze or accurately predict the changes in weather will be quite hyper localized. Now, the aim of IMD is also changing in the recent times. Earlier, it was just a forecaster of changes in weather events, and now it wants to become also a manager of weather events. For example, there is this cloud seeding chamber which has been developed at IITM Pune, which is an Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, and using this kind of a facility of cloud seeding in a laboratory atmosphere, the IMD wants to have the capability of undertaking and understanding the process of cloud seeding, which will help IMD in future times if it wants to undertake artificial rainfall, which you can understand can be quite beneficial for drought related area or areas which are witnessing high pollution like Delhi. So these areas, if the IMD itself has the ability to undertake artificial rainfall, you understand the problems of India related to rainfall or the lack of rainfall will go away. Understood? Now, let us move to the last article of the day. This article appeared on page 8 of the Indian Express, and it states that the NEET even this year will not be conducted over the online mode, rather it would be conducted like a traditional pen and paper mode. Now, UPSC aspirants, you must be quite familiar with pen and paper mode, as even in UPSC prelims you are required to fill in the OMR sheet, which is a pen and paper method. So, UPSC people will easily correlate to it, but there are several risks associated with pen and paper, as we have seen, because the NEET previous year, particularly the UG exam, it was leaked, and this created a whole set of problems for many people. So first of all, let us try to understand that earlier there was this panel set up after the leak incidents went public, and it put government in a tricky political spot, and government appointed a panel called K. Radhakrishnan panel to understand and highlight the process of how to reform India's entrance examination. Now, by giving or considering the changes, it gave about 101 recommendations, and most of the recommendations, or the most important recommendation in this regard, was to undertake entrance exams over the computer or over the online mode and not offline mode through pen and paper method. However, even after that, NEET this year has decided that it will continue to hold the exam in just pen and paper format this year. Now, there are some reasons. First of all, we'll try to understand what are the important recommendations made by the K. Radhakrishnan panel, and will then try to understand why, despite such recommendations, the exam will be held in pen and paper mode this year. Now, earlier, as I told you, the Radhakrishnan committee gave certain recommendations. It started with the national testing agencies, which is the premier agency which conducts tests for recruitment in central universities and also for entrance is in many India's courses. Now, this agency, according to the K. Radhakrishnan panel, has outstretched itself because it conducts exam for about 122 lakh students every year. However, it does not have the capacity to conduct such large scale exams. Therefore, it is highly dependent on the service providers, particularly private companies, to undertake tests, and that is where the integrity of exams might quite fail. Therefore, it wants to reduce the amount of outsourcing currently which is done by the NTA, and it also wants, until the capacity of NTA has increased, it wants to limit NTA just to conducting the entrance examination and rather give away the process of hiring or recruitment exams. Further, to assist the NTA's Director General, it holds that it should be provided with 2 additional Director Generals and domain specific staff so as to enable the NTA DG to discharge his or her duty in a much efficient and effective manner. Now, also it suggested an election-like process to increase the coordination between different authorities, and it stated that it should involve, the central government should involve state and district authorities much in a similar way like election processes. As we see in election processes, central government employees, state government employees and district level authorities, they coordinate exactly, and this is how our elections in India are conducted. And similarly, such processes can be replicated for the contents of entrance exam, as coordination committees can be formed at both levels, which will have representation from NTA, National Informatics Commission, police as well as IB, and these bodies or coordination committee will be responsible for finalizing centers, for transportation of papers from printing press to exam halls, and also in providing the security to the paper and the centers. Also, the security will be provided by either the state police or the central armed police forces, which is part of Ministry of Home Affairs, and the process of sealing and desealing of centers should also happen so as to protect the integrity of the test centers themselves. Also, these test centers need to be monitored with the help of CCTV cameras, and also there should be a decided or a designated presiding officer who should be the in charge of any test center, and he or she should be the member of NTA. So this is how it wants to increase the coordination between various authorities under the ambit of what body called NTA. Now, it also suggested many methods in order to reform the testing process and designation of testing centers. First of all, it stated that in cases of online exams, there should be multi-session testing, which can include sessions held over a period of 5 to 6 days. It can also have multi-stage testing like UPSC. There should be a prelims mains examination, which will help us filter out the required candidates. The testing center should be available in each district, and it should be made sure that the candidates, he or she, gets the test center in their home districts themselves. Now, in case, God forbid, the online testing methods are not provided, and in case you are providing them with pen and paper, then that pen and paper test should have 3 sets of questions, and it also should be sent over an encrypted communication network, and the delivery of these papers can also be done over the computer, and the candidates, they can be filling those papers with the OMR sheet also. Now, to verify the authenticity of whether the person is actually the person or not who has filled the form, it requires a kind of an app which should be called as DigiExam app. Now, for travelers, you must be using the app called DigiYatra app, where it authenticates the veracity or the identity of the traveler, and similarly the identity of the exam taker can be analyzed through the DigiExam app. Understood? Now, it also gives certain suggestions which are long-term measures that could be inculcated in order to reform the exam cycle. First is that there is a need to harmonize and unify the amount of tests which are happening in the country. For example, for all the undergraduate tests, there should be just one procedure of how the test should be happening. For example, there should be uniform eligibility and admission criteria. The number of stages of those tests should be fixed, in addition to the modes of testing, whether they will be online or offline. Further, there is a need to migrate over to the computer adaptive testing, which means the questions which are presented to the test givers like you and I will not be the same. Rather, if you are performing well, the questions might go harder, and if you're not performing so well, the questions might go easier on you, and this will help the computer program analyze your intellectual and your capacity level, and then your rank could be decided. Also, the computer based test should be the norm going forward, and in order to achieve the infrastructural development and provision of test centers in this regard, the NTA, it could collaborate with the Kendriya Vidyalayas as well as Navodaya Vidyalayas, which will improve the ability of NTA to take the computer based test. So, all in all, you can understand the main recommendation of the K. Radhakrishnan panel was to move towards the computer based testing. But as we have known in this year's NEET UG, the exam will again be conducted not over the computer base but over pen and paper mode. So, why is government choosing pen and paper mode even against the recommendation of K. Radhakrishnan panel? First of all, there are 2 reasons. Because NEET UG exam is currently India's largest entrance exam, which consists as 24 lakh students appeared in this exam last year, and this year it is expected that about 28 to 30 lakh of students will appear. Now, online mode, if this exam were to happen in online mode, it will require multiple shifts which can stretch up to in a period of 10 days. So, you can understand this will be a long process if it happens online, and the presence of reliable test centers with NTA currently is not that much to cater to the demand of 28 to 30 lakh students. So that is why first reason is that the government is holding this exam in one session over the pen and paper method. Also, this NEET UG, it includes people or students who come from rural bases, and these rural students, they do not have the familiarity with the digital format. Also, they are not able to take stimulated tests just like urban students. So therefore, it will not bring them with parity with respect to urban students, and that is why, to make this exam more inclusive, this year's NEET UG exam will be held over the pen and paper method. Understood? Now let us try to highlight or understand how to write such answers. Now you have to write such answers in 150 words, and you have to present two information: recommendations and the potential impact of the conduction of entrances. Now you will start the introduction by highlighting that after many instances of paper leak in last year's exam, the K. Radhakrishnan panel was formed to suggest the reforms in the Indian entrance exam test. So this will be the introduction. Now your body will consist of two parts. First of all, you will highlight important recommendations made by the body, that this body highlights changes in exam pattern. It highlights how to improve coordination between state and district level authorities. It highlights long-term measures. So this is how the recommendations will be written by you as a part of your body. And also the second part of your answer will be the impact, that how it will impact the availability of test centers, how it will impact the rural students, how it will ease the process of undertaking of the entrance tests, and it will also prevent the paper leakages. So this is how you will write the impact of such a move. Now you have to conclude your answers. So in our conclusion, you will say that among the many suggestions given by the K. Radhakrishnan panel, one suggestion stands out, that there is a need for India to move towards a computer-based test when it comes to the entrance examination. And based on this information, you will also say that according to many exigencies and shortcomings in current digital test centers infrastructure, the NEET has decided to go over the pen and paper method for this year's. And in longer term, even the NEET plans to move towards a computer-based test. Understood? So try to write this answer. Many students, they are submitting me their answers. In case if you don't want to publish them on the group, please feel free me to message them individually to me. You can utilize the group for that. So please make sure to write this answer, and you can submit your answers on the Telegram group ATS Live, the QR for which is given here. Now also, before concluding this session, this is your practice question for today. So please try to attempt this question, and if you have the answer, please do comment in the comment section. Now, good morning Doraemon, good morning Shabbir, you guys came late. I'll be concluding this session. So the late joiners, you can watch this session after this ends, as it will be provided in the YouTube. So I'll see you again tomorrow at 10 AM sharp. Until then, keep reading, keep analyzing, and more importantly, you know what? Keep writing the answers.